Welcome to the 15-Minute Financial Feast podcast, bringing you 15-minute segments to help you retire with purpose on time. We're serving up food for thought and bread for the head. Are you hungry to learn? Here are your hosts, Mark Triplett and Troy Westendorf.
Hey everyone, Mark Triplett here.
Troy Westendorf, how are you guys doing?
This is your 15-minute financial feast. Today we are going to be covering a topic specifically about the 4 must-have documents in your estate plan. Now, everybody's situation is different. You should definitely consult an estate planning attorney when drafting these documents. We would highly recommend that you do so. We can refer you to somebody if it's important to you. However, these are the 4 common estate planning documents that everybody should consider having in their estate plan. So, Troy, what's the first one on your list today?
Well, the first one would be a will or a trust, which everyone has heard of. And basically, it's just a document that's expressing your wishes at death, so at someone's death. One of the things we always run into with these, Mark, is when someone comes in, they always feel like they have plenty of time to make these decisions. Or they have a hang-up saying, well, I don't know where I want to put my kids, or who if they have minor children, who's going to take care of them. So it ends up tripping them up, and they end up not doing it altogether. So that would be the first one, is to get that will or a trust in place, and determining which one you need is not something that we do, but is something that we would refer out to Laura Lucci, who does our estate planning and our trust and wills. And she can actually walk our clients through this and determine what is the best fit for each situation.
Yeah, and whether you need a will or you need a trust depends on your circumstances with regard to your family makeup and your assets and a whole host of other other things that you have to flush out.
Right.
And so, some folks might just go get a will online and think, well, they're good, and then they come to find out later that that will maybe wasn't sufficient. It didn't bypass probate, and the reality is, by the time it's too late, you're not around anyway. So it's the family that's left to battle it out and fight over it, and a lot of family strife can happen if these planning documents are not in place and communicated to the family members.
Right, yeah, that's another good one, communication with the family members.
The next document on the list is medical power of attorney. And your POA allows you to appoint another person known as an agent to act in your place. Now, medical power of attorney would allow that person to act as your agent when making medical decisions. And with the HIPAA laws today, if you're an adult and you wind up in the hospital, your spouse may be able to get information, but the hospital is probably not going to release any personal information about your medical situation to any other adult without your written consent. And this medical power of attorney would allow somebody to act as your agent on your behalf if you're incapacitated and unable to make those decisions for yourself. Now, we often think of this medical power of attorney as applying to folks who are maybe older, who are looking at a situation where maybe because of dementia or something like that, they may not be able to make decisions. But I want everybody that's listening to think about this situation. What happens when you have an adult child, an unmarried adult child just turned 18, they're on their way to college, and something happens while they're in a different state on campus?
Which we just went through, college graduation. So a lot of kids are going to be leaving the home this fall.
So in that particular instance, one of the documents that we recommend all of our parents get for their unmarried adult children is a medical power of attorney. So that way, if something were to happen to your child, who is an adult at that point, while they're away from home, that you'll be able to act as their agent or get medical information about their condition if they were to become injured or incapacitated and stuck in a hospital another state away or even another city away. So I think it's really important that you think through and make sure you get those. And those documents don't have to cost an arm and a leg either to get in place. But I think it's really critical document. And there are a lot of different articles out there that will speak to that fact. It's not just our opinion. Troy, what's next on the list?
So the next one is similar to the medical power of attorney. It is the financial power of attorney, which works similar. Now you have someone that can actually speak on your behalf when it comes to finances. And maybe it's, paying some bills or accessing the checkbook. There's different things you can have with this, but it's just as vital as the medical power of attorney when you're talking about someone that cannot access the financial side of things and needs someone to get in there and access it. And again, if they don't have someone in place, it's just like the medical power of attorney. You cannot access it.
Yeah, so play this one out. My wife and I are retired, and we're driving across the country, enjoying ourselves. We get in a car accident, and both of us are in the hospital. We can't communicate with a financial institution, and we maybe have bills to pay or things at home, not right, there, things at home that need to be transacted on our behalf. Who can go to our bank and say, hey, these folks are incapacitated? Can your kids do that, your adult children? No, the bank's not going to tell your adult children what your financial situation is or let them transact on your behalf until they get a court order after seeing a judge. So having a financial power of attorney on record is another critical piece to the estate planning document package. The last one on the list is a living will. Yep. This is a written statement detailing a person's desires regarding their medical treatment in circumstances in which they are no longer able to express informed consent. We often refer to the living will as this is kind of crass, but the pull the plug document. If you are incapacitated and you're going to be on life support for the rest of your life, do you want to remain that way, or do you want to be let go? Think about there's a case in the Terry Schiavo case that made national headlines years ago, where I think it was the husband wanted to let her go, and the family members want to keep her on life support. Yeah. So having a living will on file, expressing your wishes in the event that you are in a situation where you're deemed not likely to recover by a doctor, and that you're going to be on life support for the rest of your life. Do you want to stay in that capacity or not? That document should also be on file in your estate planning documents. Now, Troy, you recently had a situation in your family. Brenda's stepdad was actually traveling out of state. He's from Minnesota, right?
Yeah.
This was
This was in Colorado. So, true story. About a week ago, to this day, a week ago, last Friday, he is traveling through Colorado, gets in a car accident, pretty serious car accident. He survived, but it was serious. They bring him to the hospital. One of the hospitals there can't take care of him, so they move him to another hospital in the state of Colorado. The family did not hear about this accident until Sunday when they were trying to release him. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, late afternoon, they finally get a phone call, which he just happens to have a phone number in his wallet. It happens to be his daughter. So right now he had a concussion. He's got some things going on. They have no medical power of attorney. They have no power of attorney. They have no financial power of attorney. And these were all the things that we discussed. Oh, man, we discuss quite often. But it's one of those things you just kind of put off thinking you have time. Here's a situation where they cannot get any information. The kids, 3 of the kids drive out to Colorado, try to access information. They can't get information until their dad gives them permission to give them the information. So there's a lot of scary things that happen in that time frame, a lot of worry. You cannot get answers. There's just a lot of things that are set up in place. And I'll say that another thing, there is no voice. So for 3 days, it was him and the hospital staff. So nobody had any voice. Nobody had any voice for him. The questions that maybe he needed to be asking were not being asked. There's just a lot of things that could have went much smoother had we had these things in place.
Well, and so you mentioned 3 days. He's by
himself.
Kids finally find out they can't get any information, so they drive to Colorado.
13 hours.
Okay.
Yep.
Now when they get there, they're not privy to any information until he is well enough to sign a release of information, so because the hospitals can protect themselves.
Yep.
And then the hospital finally discharges him, right?
So he's good to go.
We get back to Minnesota. He goes to see the doctor there, and what happened?
And they find more things wrong with him. So when he left Colorado, it's a concussion, everything else looks good, you're good to travel. Gets to Minnesota, he's got a separation in his shoulder. He's got a broken collarbone on top of it. So, they didn't see a lot of these things, and the questions that need to be asked couldn't be asked. He was released early, should not have been released early. I mean, this guy had a collapsed lung on top of it. So 3 days later, they released him from the hospital. He had a collapsed lung, had a concussion, had a separated shoulder, and has a broken collarbone. And they're saying, you're good to go, good to travel home. 13 hours, this guy had to be in some severe pain.
So I guess the summary of this talk today is really making sure that you're getting your ducks in a row before you need them. Yeah. This is maybe a wake-up call for him in this situation, but make sure that you visit with an estate planning attorney, that you start checking off these lists, making sure you have a will or a trust if appropriate. It's not appropriate for everybody. Make sure that you have a medical power of attorney in your estate planning documents. Make sure that you have a financial power of attorney in your estate planning documents. And we didn't mention this, but sometimes those are two different people.
Yeah.
Make sure that you have the living will also stated clearly in your estate planning documents. And then update these periodically. If you have major changes in your family structure, that's a good time to do it. But at least every 10 years. You should be having these documents reviewed. And it probably wouldn't be a bad idea for you to go over them annually. But from the attorneys that we've talked to in the past, they said they don't typically get with their clients to review these more than once every decade unless something changes in their family structure or their economic situation changes dramatically. So
you did it earlier too, Mark, just reviewing it with family.
Yeah.
Sometimes they set these things up and they don't even have a conversation with the other family members, or the children involved. And it's all you always hear people joking, "Oh, we don't need a living will. If something happens to me, just pull the plug." Well, what child is going to pull the plug on you? I mean, we talk about that in long-term care situations too. Do this.
We've seen this happen too before, and I'm sure folks listening have stories, either people they know or even in their own family. Your family gets together for Thanksgiving every year, Christmas every year, big family gatherings that everybody seems to get along, and then mom or dad are gone and they leave this inheritance, and all of a sudden nobody's talking to anybody, each other. The in-laws become outlaws, and it's a big battle. And if everything is clearly spelled out and communicated up front, you can avoid some of those hard feelings that cause family strife and can tear families apart.
100%.
So that is it for our show this week. If you have questions about this, or you need to talk to somebody with regard to your financial life, your estate planning situation, you can contact us and we can put you in touch with the correct person when it comes to that. And until then, next week or next time our next show rather. Until then, make sure that you're striving every day to retire with purpose
and on time.
Every dollar has a purpose and every dollar has a timeline, and making sure that you are directing those dollars where to go so that they're there for you for those purposes on those timelines. That's our philosophy around here. Every dollar has a purpose, every dollar has a timeline, and we hope that you find value in this content, and it will help you achieve the financial goals that you have. And until then, we will catch up with you next time. But just remember that
every dollar has a purpose, every dollar has a timeline. Take care, guys. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the 15-Minute Financial Feast podcast. Remember, every dollar has a purpose and every dollar has a timeline. If you have questions about today's topic, schedule a call with a team member. Visit www.mypt5.com. Until next time, be sure you're taking steps to retire with purpose on time. Mark Triplett is an investment advisor representative of and advisory services offered through Royal Fund Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Nothing contained in this program should be considered an offer to buy or sell securities. Different investments have different risks associated with them, and not all investments are appropriate for all investors.